Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 42 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how not having a set path for life can be beneficial. You know, everyone gets lost sometimes. I think that we've all had experiences where we felt hopeless, alone, and we didn't really know what to do. Maybe you're in that stage right now, but today we're here to tell you that that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe you should learn to love being lost. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say this week has been extremely hectic, insanely hectic for me. I don't know about you, but I had midterms, trying to edit and upload videos for the podcast, and then PRing at the gym almost every single day. It's been a hectic week, and life will throw curveballs like
I just
that
want to put it out there that we PR at the gym because we are on a program, not PRing at the gym every day because we don't actually work out and we just PR.
Yeah, we're not just ego lifters, but point is,
just want to put that out there.
It's been a hectic week for me at least. I don't know what's your experience. This week?
My week, it's been actually quite chill because my hectic week is gonna be next. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't even have a hectic week.
Look at that, he's blessed.
I'd say this week was pretty hectic. I got into this club that I really wanted to get into. Maybe somebody from it might be watching this video, but really happy about that. And it's a lot of new work, a lot of new adjusting, and things that are a bit outside of my comfort zone, things I'm not used to. But I'm really adapting to it, I feel like, and I'm enjoying it a lot more. Like, even though what I'm doing, it's just tedious, boring work, I'm excited to do it because it's like, it's new, right? If I feel like getting stuck in your own ways, things become boring, but boring things can be exciting if you don't always do them.
Oh, for sure. I think that it's really all about perspective on what you're doing. Because, for example, even when I'm sitting here editing this video, which I'm about to do right after recording this, I'm going to be sitting there clicking the same two buttons for an hour. But I'm still going to enjoy it because I get to look back, I get to evaluate what I did right, what I did wrong, whether it was engaging, whether I liked the episode. So realistically, everyone enjoys their own thing. And at the end of the day, if you find something you enjoy, you're going to be doing it regardless of how boring it is. Right?
Yeah, and I would say that's why, especially if you're bored or lost or confused in life, you just got to try something new.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've found that a lot of the time you'll pick something up and you'll get really tired of it. And then, you can think as you're starting it, man, I'm going to do this every day. I can't wait to be so good at this. And then after a week of doing it, you're like, bro, I'm so bored. I'm so tired of it. And I'm not saying that you should just keep switching things. I think that it's very important to learn discipline and sticking to things. But you need to overcome your fear of trying new things, especially the fear of being bad at them. Because in reality, you're always going to start. Everybody starts somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, I would say the big thing was table tennis. When I started playing table tennis, I mean to tell you that I was playing 2 to 3 hours every single day after school. Any break that I got from my classes, I was playing ping pong, table tennis, I'll say. Spring break, winter break, at any time I possibly could, I was at a table playing table tennis.
What was the longest time you stayed at school to play table tennis?
I've been at school, not consecutively, but school ended at 3:30. I think the longest I've been at school playing table tennis was until 10 o'clock. We got kicked. The janitors extended the period of time so that we could keep playing. We talked to the janitors, and we're like, hey, we really want to keep playing. Can we keep playing? And they were like, yeah, it's okay. We'll just clean up this area last so you guys can play while we clean. And then at 10 o'clock, they came, and they were like, hey, you guys have to go now. But it wasn't an extended. We played until about 6, took a break for 2 hours, and we studied because we were actually supposed to stay after school and study. About 2 hours, and then we came back to it and played.
That's insane.
So first off, I don't know anybody else who stayed at the school that late. And because half the school was gated off and closed. They literally left that one area for us so that we could play. And what I realized was that in the beginning, my friend told me, yo, let's go play table tennis with me during our spare block. And I was like, no, man, I don't really want to. And this was in all the chess hype, when chess was really big. And I was playing chess, and he was like, how about this? If I play you in chess, you have to play me in table tennis. So I was like, fine. So I played this guy in chess, and, I'm a man of my word. So I went and I played him in table tennis. And my God, did that completely alter the entire course of my entire life. If I'm being honest, I don't think my life would be anywhere where it is right now if it wasn't for that. That one single event completely veered the course of my entire life.
Well, for the record, that experience in and of itself perfectly embodies what we're talking about today.
Exactly.
Because that one event alone, you did not plan for it. You did not have a plan to become a table tennis player. But then through that experience, you gain something new. Now imagine if you were someone who said, no, I'm sticking to my plan. Like one of those people who says, I'm only an academic person, I don't do sports. You would have never had the opportunity to become as great as you are. And one thing I have to ask you is, through doing this process of becoming a good table tennis player, what are 3 things that you learn?
3 things. Okay, first thing is patience and time, right? There's a lot of work that goes into it, and the reality is, like, when I'm playing people and they ask me, like, oh, how can I get better? I always struggle to give them advice because I was never taught anything. Well, I started to get taught as I got better because we had a sort of coach, I'll say, at our school. But the reality was, it was just a ton of playing and being like, hey, what can I change? And the main thing is risk taking. In table tennis, especially if you're playing somebody of equal skill to you, if you guys can do a simple rally back and forth for eternity, right? But you get a point when you take a risk. So one thing is, you just got to take a risk. Sometimes you're going to miss, but you get better with every single miss.
For sure.
Right? Like, this was, I now that I think about it, I realize that it was such a big point for me. It was such a big, like, teaching moment for me, is that it just takes time. You need to have patience and understand that it's going to take time. And number 2 is to not be fearful of the fact that you'll never catch up to a great, or that a great is so far away, right? Never be disappointed because you're falling short of somebody else. There's a kid at my school who was ranked number 3 in BC at the time when me and my friends started playing. This guy would 11-0 me, no problem, easily. He beat me with his left hand. He beat me with a phone. But I never let it discourage me because it just made me more motivated to get better. So I understood that, like, I'm not there yet, but I'm okay with that. I feel like being able to embrace the fact that you're not at your destination yet is super important. And it's not like I want to be a professional table tennis player when I grow up, but getting better is always, something that you want to do. And the third thing is, I'd say, I'm trying to, like, think of a big thing I could connect.
I mean, there's a lot that you can learn from this, even as a sport, because I'll say, even today, when I played against you, I played several matches against you, could not win a single one because, well, I only won one matchup, right? The whole time I lost every single game other than that. And I just realized that there's so much that I don't know, especially also when I'm playing, like, Kevin, for example, and his, like, forward spin, back spin, and I'm just sitting there wondering how the hell the ball is spinning and bouncing all over the place. And I can't even imagine what kind of skill I would have to hit that. So I guess that in the beginning, any task seems extremely daunting, right?
I'd say that might be, the third point. Especially, I watched a lot of Ma Long, the greatest table tennis player of all time. When he was in his prime, he's past
Is he
his
like
prime
the
now.
Magnus Carlsen of table
I
tennis?
believe that's like, he's considered the GOAT, I believe. But he's not ranked number 1 anymore. He's like ranked number 4 or 5, I think, right now. But either way, I watched, like, a lot of his videos and stuff because, like, obviously it's like, oh my God, this stuff is crazy. And I would sit there completely confused. But one thing that I did learn is by watching these clips, you can actually really adapt it to your life, or to your play style, even if you don't do it properly. Like, I would say my serve is how a lot of pros serve, but it's nowhere, and I mean nowhere near as good as their serve. I can't add the same kind of spin. I don't have the same kind of technique. But by emulating it or by watching it, I've kind of gotten a lot better at doing it. And that's the same thing with a lot of the hits. And I'd say, like, especially in life, even if you can't do it perfectly, by watching somebody who knows what they're doing, you can apply it to your own life and try it out. And that's what I've really found, is just trying it out. Because clearly, I'd say if somebody's doing something and it's working, it works, right? So look into what the pros are doing. And that doesn't mean you have to be the same. Like, I don't play like Ma Long. I mean, obviously, I'm not as good as him, but I don't play exactly like he does. What do? I try to look at things. What does he do that I don't, that I can apply to my own playing style and create something new, right? It's not about being that person, but it's about adapting your own play style to, become better.
For sure. And honestly speaking, I don't think I've seen a sport change your life the way that table tennis did. You became a very, very different person. And also, I think, I'm surprised this wasn't on your list, but commitment to consistent improvement. You spent hours upon hours playing table tennis at times that everyone thought that you cared more about table tennis than school.
Yeah.
And to
Absolutely.
be honest, it definitely looked that way. You spend more hours playing table tennis than actually studying or doing homework.
Absolutely. I do not even think for a second the amount of hours I have on table tennis. Absolutely, like in my, I'll say grade 11 and 12 years, absolutely like
Mugs.
gaps. I'm not going to use that term.
Is that a brain rot
Gaps.
term now?
What?
Is that a brain rot term now?
Yes, it is
Really?
It is absolutely a brain rot.
Damn, maybe I'm unk status already.
That's also a brain rot term. Bro.
Really? Dude,
Yeah,
I got called I got
it's
called that by like 3 people today.
Yeah, because you are, I mean, you're old now.
Okay,
That's
That's
like,
kind of a crazy thing
that
to say
is
to a
crazy.
21
That is
year old.
absolutely crazy. I think as time progresses, time gets faster, if you get what I mean. Like,
yeah.
or sorry, I guess, yeah, it's just the gap between generations gets smaller. I think we've definitely talked about this, but
100%.
I think that time is definitely speeding up, right? Or the world is speeding up. That's what I should say. Like, there's so much change happening so quickly, especially with this new AI stuff. Everything is going to just start snowballing. So, like, before, it was like, yeah, you and people who might be even 10 years younger than you shared the same culture. Now, people 10 years younger than you, they're talking about things you have no idea about.
Yeah, and like for the record, you were just saying that this whole AI situation is blowing things out of control. It is currently 8:34 PST on a Thursday, which means that the robo-taxi event for Tesla has taken place about an hour and a half ago, which means that tomorrow, majority of the world will know whether we will have self-driving cabs very
That's pretty
soon.
cool. That's
which
really
is
interesting.
insane.
Yeah.
Right? And like that in and of itself, that software just shows you how far we've gone in like the recent decade, right?
That's
There's
exactly.
no way that we would have accomplished that without AI.
It's the hockey stick analogy from economics. You know, like a hockey stick shape, it's like this, right?
well,
Well,
yeah.
it's just an exponential graph. They call it the hockey stick, at least in economics. But I guess I did learn something from my economics lectures.
There you go.
But yeah, it's like a lot of trends nowadays, they follow this, like wage or whatever, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It follows this hockey stick.
Exponential
And
growth,
it's
yeah.
the boom happened in like the Industrial Revolution. Now it's happening now because people believe it's another revolution. But
sure.
I think that's besides the point.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to ask you, we're 12 minutes into this episode, but a quick question for you. Do you believe that we have free will?
Yes.
Okay.
But actually, that's a really difficult question. I feel like that's too difficult of a question for me to cover in the scope of this episode. I feel like that's something I could talk about for hours.
Well, I'm just
on
saying
end.
in general, just ideas. It doesn't have to pertain directly to that.
Okay. In a short-term answer, you know what? Actually, I'm going to switch up my answer and say no. Only because if you really look at the world around us, all of our actions are dictated by essentially external factors. How we react is based on the environment we're placed in, right? We're placed in certain environments and then we're given choices to make. But even then, what we choose is based on our previous experiences and what we were taught. Very rarely do people go against their pattern of thinking that has served them their whole life. So I would say that realistically, I don't think the answer is yes, because most of our decisions were influenced by a lot of other factors. I mean, what can you really call free thinking, right? It's not really you coming up with
because
your own idea.
I don't know. I would say actually, I kind of disagree. Because if you think about it, as kids growing up, we came up with a ton of games and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Using our imagination. And I would say not necessarily based on what was around us. Like think about Sasketball. We talked about it on the last episode. Actually, you know what? We're gonna take the viewers through a game of Sasketball and how it works, just so you guys can understand the scope of what we're talking about, of our level of imagination. Because if you think about it, there is nothing else like it. Okay, Sasketball is basically a game where there are two teams. You split into two teams of two because there was 4 of us, and one team is attacking, the other team is defending. You have a goal, and the goal is like it's just a wall, right? So one team can use only their legs. The other team can only use their hands. And I think it was the defending team can use their hands, and
Yeah.
the attacking team can use only their legs.
So pretty much it's like a game of soccer. Like the people attacking are kicking the ball at the net. Your goalie can obviously use their hands, but they can't use their feet.
Yeah,
And
they
your
can't kick the ball.
defenseman also can't use his feet.
Yeah. So it's just hands versus feet, basically. And then the way that we timed how long you get to attack and defend for was that you pick a song.
Oh my God. I didn't even think about that.
So you pick a song and we play until the song is finished. But the thing is, we never thought about this as an exploitation tool. Like, we never, like, picked, a 10-minute song or something so we could attack forever. No, we all picked reasonable songs. And that is what I'm talking about when I say we have crazy levels of creativeness. Like, the human mind works in ways you would never, like, how did we think of that? I have no clue. There's no external factor that could have led us to making that game. Or even the stupid virus. How did we get to that game? You know, we explained it on the last episode, so if you're not in the loop, go check out the last episode and find out about the
Yeah, we
stupid
talked
virus.
about some kind of crazy stuff on the last episode.
Yeah, that was a banging episode. But
Trip down memory lane.
yeah, it's a real question is how does the brain come up with this stuff? Where does this creativity form? That's what made me think that I think that we do have free will in the idea of ideation creation. So making ideas is all it is, right? Creating ideas. So and that's what I was just thinking about it because, you know, it's the same thing with the set path for life. A lot of people fear, like, I think there's been a whole debate about, like, free will or non-free will. And some people think, okay, I'm just a victim of my surroundings, so there's nothing I can do. If I just coast for the rest of my life, everything will work out. How it's meant to be. That is what I'm very fearful for a lot of people. Is some people go through their lives believing in fate and destiny and believing that nothing I can do can change it. But it's a thin line to walk between giving up and focusing on what you can control, right? I think that the idea of fate and destiny is important sometimes to believe in. Sometimes it's important to have faith in external factors, but that only comes to the things you can't control, right? If somebody leaves your life or somebody does wrong to you, somebody else does something, sometimes you just have to be like, hey, man, that's life, right? It happens. I just got to trust in the fact that I'm going to be a better person, right? Think about it. Maybe your girlfriend breaks up with you. Maybe, you know, somebody cheats on you. Maybe your life gets ruined or hurt by another person. You don't have any choice over it, right? There, you don't really have the free will to change what has happened, but you do have the free will to affect how you're going to decide to move forward.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the biggest things that I'd say about, or one of the greatest situations where this whole set path for life comes into play is university, where so many people go to university, right? And a lot of people actually don't know what they want to do until their third or fourth year. Did you know that 33% of university students change their majors once at least?
Really? I had no idea.
33% of university majors change their major at least once. So don't be afraid if you didn't get it right on the first try or if you don't like what you do. You have time to test things out and find what you love. Because at the end of the day, what is the point of going through life and for the sake of efficiency and getting my degree before I'm 25 to choose something that I don't actually enjoy? And even worse is to choose something because somebody else told me to. Now, I know that a lot of people out there will have the experience where their parents will tell them what to study or what kind of a job to get. In that situation, it's very difficult to pursue your own passion. Now, I can say that I'm fortunate enough that I was given the free will and the opportunity to pursue whatever I want. But for a lot of people, that's not true, right? They say you have to be a doctor or you have to be a lawyer. You have to be an engineer. You don't have a choice. And to somebody out there who's dealing with that, what would you tell them?
I would say that, okay, my biggest point is, I think if you really like value I'd say first step is look at it from your parents' view, right? Or whoever is like, you know, influencing these decisions upon you. Look at it from their view. Because oftentimes these people make these decisions for us because they believe that it's in your best interest. And it may not be. I think that that's reality. Sometimes people offer help where it is unnecessary. But understand that first off, it comes from a place of love, that they really want to help you. Oftentimes, these people really care about you and they want to make positive change in your life. Maybe they're not doing it the way you want, right? And you should tell them that. But first step is understand that oftentimes the people around you care about you and they just want to see you succeed. So that's step number one. Don't get mad over it. Because in the end, I feel like that just makes the situation a hell of a lot worse. And also, don't let it make you do anything brash or, I want to say, foolish, right? Don't just immediately drop out of university because, okay, I'm rebelling against my parents. I think that it's an overreaction, right? Don't get brash about it. That's why I'd say maintain a level head. It's very important in these situations to maintain a level head. Second, question everything. Question why you're doing everything that you do. Literally take a day. After one day, go about your day hour by hour. And what did I do? Why did I do everything I did? Because then you'll begin to find, and also think about your thoughts, right? Journal your thoughts. What did I think about throughout the day? Because these are the things that you truly value. That's truly on your mind. Because the thing is, a lot of people don't have direction in university because they never took the time to figure themselves out. That's why I believe that high school really needs to teach people how to figure themselves out more, right? It's a lot of the time, I don't think high school really encourages people to get out there, right? To really experience the world, because experiencing the world is what allows you to figure out yourself. The reason that I think that we've come to really figure ourselves out a lot more, and I'd say at a relatively young age. Some people don't figure it out, and I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but obviously, I think that a lot of the traveling that I've done, the people I've interacted with, and the goals and activities that I've participated in, those are the things that have really helped me shape my worldview, right? It's just by doing more things. So I think if high school pushes that to kids, then they can really find out who they want to be. So step number 2, I'd say, is figure out who you are and who you want to be. And then step number 3 is apply it, right? Move forward with how you want to live your life. So I think that just reviewing it, first, stay calm. Don't do anything brash or foolish. 2, question everything, figure yourself out. And 3 is set a plan and move forward with it.
For sure. And one thing that I found that was really helpful is to test if you really enjoy something. How do you know if you don't give it 100%? If I don't give it 100% to whatever activity I'm trying, I won't see the best results. I won't create my best work. So to decide if a certain pathway is for you, you have to give it 100%, at least for a set period of time. So I'd say maybe give it 3 months, give it 6 months, whatever the specific task is, give it a certain deadline, give it 100% effort, and then at the end of the 6 months, evaluate how you felt during it, after it, and whether you enjoyed it or not. So that's one thing I would say.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I would say is, you said that one of the big things that you learn from playing table tennis is taking risks. The reason why we take the safe route, the reason why we take these standard pathways is because we're afraid of risk, because we're afraid of failure. But if you think about it, whose names are written in the history books? Is it the people who stayed at home? No. It's the people who sailed the seas, even though it was uncertain, even though they may fail. They went out there and they explored. They tried to discover new lands. Those are the people we remember. Go out there and explore. Find new pathways. Find things that you enjoy doing. That's the whole point of life. And it's crazy to me that so many people these days are depressed or down in the dumps or sad because they don't have something that drives them every single day and makes them happy. But the beauty of it is, if you're depressed, right, you may mask it and say, oh, it's because my girlfriend broke up with me, or, oh, it's because, I'm lonely. Truth be told, none of that matters when you have a goal or something that inspires you beyond any of these trivial things that we experience. Even though it was painful, if you have something that makes you smile and get up and chase every single day, you're not going to feel sad.
That's what I think a lot of people misinform. Now, again, I'm not a psychologist, so I can't speak to the idea of clinical depression. I don't know enough about it to say whether it's real or not. I know there's debates about it. But in any case, I'd say many people put themselves into a constant state of depression because they believe that they are always sad or there's only sad things happening around them, which may be true, but I think that people believe they're depressed not because they have sadness, but because they lack happiness, right? That's the bigger problem, is that people aren't going out there to find things that they genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
Instead, they stay stuck in, first off, what everybody else is doing because they want to fit in with the crowd. And actually, I'd say that's the biggest thing, is that you're doing what everybody else is doing. And that's what's preventing you, because you think that it should make you happy because it makes somebody else happy. But that's the reality of life, is that it ain't the same for everybody. That's what they say. Life is the hardest test because you try to cheat, not knowing that everybody has a different exam.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got a different path. And if you constantly think that, okay, this guy's doing something, I'm doing it, but it's not making me happy, so clearly I'm depressed. No, it's just that that's not for you, right? Certain things aren't in the cards for you, but you just need to try everything. Try with 100%. And in due time, I promise you this. I promise whoever views this video with 100% certainty that if you give it your all to everything that you come across and you truly believe that you can succeed in it, you will find happiness. I know that. I can tell you for a fact that if you are willing to dedicate yourself 100% to something, you will find happiness. I'd say for me, with table tennis, maybe it won't pay me in the future, but I gave it my 100%. Now, am I saying I could do more? Yeah, I could have, cut classes to play it. I could have done all this stuff, extra stuff to play it. But I did enough to make me happy. I gave it what I needed to fulfill me, to give me this sense of happiness, right? So a lot of the times people are afraid that they aren't doing what everybody else is doing, or they're not doing it to the standard that their model celebrity does it for. But that's okay, man. You're at this level. You give it your all, and in due time, you're going to be happy.
For sure. And another really, really good example is understanding that you are capable of anything, especially when you compare yourself to a lot of these billionaires or millionaires or entrepreneurs out there. It can be easy to lose sight that you are capable of the same thing. But there is a famous Steve Jobs quote, and he said, "Everything changes once you realize that this life around you was built by people no smarter than you are." Every system around you, every institution, every school, every building, everything that you see around you was built by people no smarter, more capable, or no stronger than you are. At the end of the day, you have the capacity to become great. Don't let the fact that everybody else has built all this stuff out there stop you from attempting something. And you just get better and better every day that you give something your all. And one of the greatest things I realized is, as I sat down to come up with my thought process for this episode, I went on YouTube and I saw in my recommended feed on my personal account one of our old videos. And I went through our account and I looked at episode 7, I believe. And it was about the new year. And I thought, damn, New Year's is coming up this year. I want to see the difference between our New Year episode last year and what it's going to be like this year. So I went and I watched it. And I kid you not, the intro was me doing this. I will mimic this for you guys at home. Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year. I am not even joking.
That was our intro?
That was my intro. If you go back and watch episode 7,
oh, man.
I look like a withered corpse.
Oh, man. Yeah, I checked. I remember rewatching episode 1, and oh, my.
And yet, episode 1 has 255 views.
That's what's tragic is I think our worst episode has the most amount of views.
But you know what? I'd say that that's inspiring in its own way, because while it may be our worst video, it was our first, and it still shows that people watched it. So even though it was the beginning, that first block that we built, people watched it, and moving forward, we're only going to get better, right?
You know what I'm going to connect this is that more people watched our worst episode than our best one, right? But did that ever affect your happiness about what you've produced?
Absolutely not.
Right? So a lot of the times we're always concerned everybody else is watching, they're seeing our flaws, and they don't see how good we've become, so we feel sad. Why should you feel sad? It doesn't matter what other people see. What matters is what you see. Right? And if you're seeing improvement, then that's what truly matters.
Exactly. Look at the comparison.
Yeah, I'd say like when you go to sleep at night, nobody else, actually maybe somebody else is there for you. But in general, you lights out in the darkness, it's just you, right? When you go to sleep, are you happy with the person that's sleeping there? As in you. I'm not talking, maybe you're sleeping with somebody, I don't know, but like I'm talking about you by yourself. Singular in
your own mind.
In your own mind, yeah. It's just you and yourself. Are you happy with the person that you see? And if so, then what does it matter what other people are thinking? Or what does it matter what other people believe? We're so misguided in believing that everybody else seems to know us so well.
Mm-hmm.
Like we constantly think that, oh my God, these people don't understand me, these people don't get me, then why do you care what they think? If these people don't understand you, then why are you so busy letting them occupy your mind? Because they're not actually looking into it. They're not actually concerned. They're not actually believing in anything. All they see is a surface level version of you, right? You're a complex person. You can't let other people dilute you down because they see a little bit, right? I'm never going to look back and be like, I can't believe so many people have watched our first video, that garbage video, even though now our videos are so much better. I'm not going to say that ever. Because guess what? I'm smiling about the fact that our videos are 100 times better than they used to be. Because to me, that's what's important. The fact that I've improved. It doesn't matter how many people see you improve as long as you do.
Absolutely. Look at us. Like every day that I look at the episodes, every day that I look at the TikToks that I upload, I'm constantly finding new ways to improve. I'm constantly finding little tweaks I can make. And every time I do it, I feel a lot happier and it makes me want to keep going a little more, which is really interesting. The more I put into something, the more I improve, the more I want to do it. And I think the same would be true for anyone out there who hasn't given something 100% effort.
I think that there's a curve to it. Like I'd say if you looked at it on a graph, right? I'd say in the beginning, you have really high motivation, right? You have high motivation. And that leads you to, blasting out a ton of work. Like, when you first pick up a hobby, you're like, man, I want to do this for a long time. And then very quickly, that motivation falls off a hill and it goes down, and now you're trudging through like a trench. If you take it as a graph, you go, okay, motivation, and now you're in the trench. You're in the trench. This is where most people quit. Most people quit after the first trench. But I can assure you now, after doing this podcast for 40 episodes, we have reached out of that trench. Or at least I have, and I hope you have too.
1,000%.
Because I remember around you know what? I can't even say that because at episode 3, I think we found our group. Episode 3 and 4 is where we really started to pick up. But I don't think that even up until episode 20, I don't even think our episodes were up to par with what we were making now.
No, nowhere near.
I absolutely don't think so. But even then, I think that before episode 20, I'll say, I was having a hard time in believing that it was going to go far. That we would ever get to this kind of a point, Like, I'm lighting up talking about it.
Yeah.
Because in reality, that time, I was like, I don't even know if I want to record an episode this week. I'm tired and it's difficult. I feel like it's an obligatory thing. But now, every day that I can get into our studio and record episodes, I'm so happy. I'm smiling whenever I see a positivity reel in my feed, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to talk about that on the podcast. And when people now mention, oh my God, man, I've seen your podcast, that's life-changing for me. Like when somebody says, yeah, I got this from your podcast, I'm like, man, that makes me feel so happy about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because before I used to be a little bit ashamed about it because I was like, oh my God, people are going to think I'm just another one of the podcasts, which maybe I am. Maybe I am just another podcast to them. But to somebody else, I've actually influenced their life. To somebody else, I've made a change, right? So I can smile about that. I can smile about that fact now. So I'd say to all of you out there that are in this little bottom trench area, I can assure you it's going to go up. But you have to keep going. That's the issue. If you let the dumps get to you, you're never going to get out of them.
What's the independent variable in that graph?
Independent would be time.
Time. So as long as you give it time, you will move out of that trench and into the crest. That's the whole point of life. And you know what I'll say? You said that to a lot of people out there, I might just be one podcast, but to that one person whose life I change, I'm happy for it. Do you want to know who that person is for me?
Who?
Myself. I am more than satisfied if all of this went out there and we never blew up. I would be more than satisfied knowing that I gave it my 100% effort and that I didn't stick to a box. I didn't stick to a conventional path of just focusing on my degree or getting a job. I went out there and did things that I loved. At the end of the day, these are the stories I'll be able to tell people when I grow older. And more importantly, the things that you learn along the way just by whether it's content creation, entrepreneurial ventures, clubs, extracurricular sports, whatever it is, you learn a lot of things from it. I learned so much from the podcast, and one of the biggest things is delayed gratification. We've been doing this for a little over
under a year.
A little under a year now. But
I think we're coming up on a year. Very
definitely,
soon,
almost going to be the 1 year
Yeah.
anniversary of creating the podcast. But if you asked me a year ago, would I ever imagine that our channel would have 125,000 views on it, roughly? No way. I never would have believed that we had 125,000 views in our first year on YouTube. And realistically, for a lot of people back, like, 7, 8 years ago, that was unheard of. Most people started their channel getting, a couple hundred views on like every other video. But now with shorts and stories and all this other stuff going on in the world of content creation, there's so many new opportunities to explore and create more. So don't put yourself in these boxes. Go out there and explore, do things differently, right? You don't have to stick to a path that other people say.
Exactly. And I would say that was one thing that really made me afraid in schools was always, we used to have to do these like surveys all the time, and they would tell us like, oh, what career is very suited for your personality type. And I would always get these random careers that I didn't like. Or another one was in our business class, we had to take this really long survey that determined what kind of a person you were. And I was really angry about it because first off, you had to pay $75 for that. That is absolutely unbelievable for a survey. I don't care what proprietary algorithm you're using to determine what kind of person I am. Absolutely not in any given scenario should I ever have to pay $75 for a survey. I'm just putting that out there. But in any case, the survey, determined all this stuff about, oh, what kind of person you are. And I sat there and I was like, you mean to tell me that you were able to boil down my 18 years of life into a 40-minute survey? And you were able to somehow figure out exactly what kind of a person I am. And then the other thing was, oh, these are the kinds of people you would work well with. And that one right there, that line made me so confused. Because we walked in this lecture, this was for my business classes, just so you guys know, for university. And we walked in these lectures and they split us up into our different groups of like what like kind of person you were. And they had us do this pitch and stuff, and people were talking about like how, oh, you wouldn't really get along with these kinds of people. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, is that really what you think? Because I'd say the biggest place that you see this is the political world. People will instantly hate each other based on political views without ever getting to actually know the person. I think that if you stop judging people based on surface values, you would have many more friends than you do now. Like, I think that what we believe to have a large effect on people's character doesn't have as big of a character or effect as we think it does. So, for example, me in university, I, might lean towards some conservative values. I don't say that I'm one way or the other. I think, I kind of pick and choose from both sides to see how I can make the best choices for my own life. But, I met a person who's more on the other side of the spectrum. But I still spoke with them. I never let that get in the way of me making a new friend, right? Because to me, that's not what's important. What's important is the fact that I go out there and I don't let these block my opportunities. Don't let what other people say about how you can't get along with somebody block your view. You should be able to do what you want. Okay, obviously within the realm of laws and morality, do what you please, or as long as you're not hurting other people or yourself, it's okay. Find out what it is that you truly want and chase that, right? Just because it isn't for somebody else doesn't mean that it isn't for you.
Mm-hmm. And it's also okay to not have everything perfectly sorted out.
Yeah.
Like, one thing is, a lot of people think, oh my God, I have to finish my degree in 4 years. Who told you that? Who said that you have to have your university career or education completed by a certain date? Who? Because last time I checked, most people don't have life all figured out. Even the most successful people out there don't have life all figured out. Sure, it's good to have goals. It's good to set milestones for yourself to progress faster, however you want, right? That's up to you. But my point is, don't leave it up to someone else to say you have to finish your education by a certain day, right? And it's really funny because people who don't know exactly what they're doing and get these thoughts of deadlines into their heads, the thought of a deadline tends to slow people down more than speed them up. Because you're sitting here stressing about this deadline, wondering, oh my God, I need to complete this degree in 4 years. But why are you doing the degree? Why are you going out there to get, what kind of job are you going out there to get with this? What is the whole purpose of doing this? And that's a question you have to ask yourself. It's not always going to be an easy question to answer. Hell, even at times I ask myself this question and I'm not 1000% sure either. But the point is, it's not the end of the world if you're unsure. There's a lot of beauty to be found in just exploring and trying new things. Sometimes if you just try something new, you'll find something better than what you were initially going for.
Absolutely.
Right? The best analogy I have for that is, in search of diamonds, we lost sight of gold. So as you go searching for this specific pathway that you want to follow, maybe a new opportunity presents itself on your way and you completely ignore it because you're so laser focused on this. I'm not saying it's bad to be focused because I think any goal in life requires focus and hard work. But also be receptive to new experiences and opportunities because you never really know where they'll lead you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember it was on our episode about balance. We talked about the light in the cave analogy. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Right? So if you stay super laser focused, yeah, you're going to see very far, but you're going to miss the gemstones of life that you're walking past, right? So you need to be able to appreciate everything that comes your way. Be ready to seize any kind of an opportunity and don't live your life with a closed mind. Or especially don't live your life with a mind closed by others, right? If you truly believe, if you find yourself out, right, and you figure out this is the kind of person that I am, this is the kind of person I want to be, and you set a path for life, you go. You go. Once you've paved the highway, or actually once you've paved, sorry, Mike, but once you've paved that runway, fly. By all means, fly. But don't just walk down a different road because somebody else told you to, right? Build a runway for yourself and take flight. But a lot of these people nowadays are thinking like, oh my God, what will people think of me if I don't finish university right now? Right? What are people going to think of me if I fail this? What are people going to think of me if I fail that? What are you going to think of yourself if you don't try something? That's one thing that Jeff Bezos said that really stuck with me. He said, I don't care if I had tried this whole Amazon thing and it had never worked out. I had no problem with that. If I had tried it and failed, I would have no problem with it. I would only have had a problem if I had never tried at all. And that's reality, is that people never regret trying, but they will always regret, I want to think of a better word than not trying because it's a very good point, but not trying, for the lack of a better term. People do not regret trying something. They always regret the things they didn't do, the risks they didn't take, the steps they never walked up, the leaps they never took. Those are the things that people truly regret. And the idea is that you can't let a closed mind stop you from pursuing the things that you truly enjoy. You can't let a closed mind stop you from taking a leap. The whole point of the leap is that you don't know that if there's going to be a path ahead.
You know what that just brought me to?
What?
Probably one of the greatest Fortnite clips of all time. This takes me back to when Fortnite first came out. And I don't know if, I know you've seen it, but I'm just waiting if you can get the visualization in your head. It's a guy recording on his phone. He's recording I think a Snapchat video of his friend playing Fortnite. And he's on a sky bridge, okay? And the zone is this small. It's like the tiniest the circle can get. It's about to close in on him. And the last guy is below him. And he jumps off, falls all the way down, and shoots him in the head with a shotgun before he lands and wins. That is one of the most iconic clips of all time. But imagine if he just sat there on top of the sky bridge and popped bandages or med kits until the other guy died. We would never get that insane clip of this guy falling off a sky bridge and shooting the other guy. One of the greatest clips of all time came from a leap. A lot of the moments we remember came from a leap, something insane. Don't you want to be the guy who does that instead of always observing other people do it?
Yeah.
And it's funny because you see how happy you get when you talk about other people taking these risks because you see that it worked. That's a critical point, right?
Absolutely.
Because in this clip, imagine the guy fell and died. First of all,
probably wouldn't have even posted the clip.
Exactly. He never would have posted the clip, number one, and we would not know of this story. But at the same time, I feel like he would have been more upset with himself if he had sat up there. And, victory's not even guaranteed if he sits up there, right? At the end of the day, regardless, there's a chance he loses. But this way, he goes out on his own terms. He gets to take that leap of faith and try something crazy and be written in the history books of gaming forever. And whatever it is, whatever your field is, whether it's, biology or chemistry or engineering or entrepreneurship, you go out there, you do something crazy. Things may work out. All of these people who are super successful did not take conventional routes. Look at Steve Jobs, invented the iPhone. Was that conventional? No, that was insane advancement in technology. Look at Apple, the most valuable company in the world at the moment. Well, I don't want to say the world, but I know in America at least, it's number one in market value. Look at Jeff Bezos, like you said. He started off just selling books and then created Amazon. Crazy jump. And like you said, he would have regretted it if he never did it. So whatever idea you have out there, whether it fails or not, at the end of the day, you would be much more upset knowing you didn't take that risk and tried to forge your own path. And instead you stuck to some mediocre path that somebody else already paved the way for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like innovation is the greatest thing you can do to do something different, because nobody likes a repetitive story. Nobody likes hearing somebody else's story. You know, I saw this video of Andrew Tate talking about like one time he was in this restaurant and he listened to these two people that were on a date or something, and the whole time they spent talking about other people instead of themselves. And I found it very interesting. They're like, "Oh, what's going on in this celebrity's life? What's going on in this celebrity's life?" And I really thought about it, and I'd say my favorite podcast episodes are the ones where we talk about the things that we've done. Because maybe to the viewer, it's no different. A story is a story to a viewer. I think I tell it in a better way when it's my perspective. But the reason for that is because I feel it. You don't feel anything about somebody else's success. You don't truly feel anything. You may say it because the other person will be like, "Oh my God, that's a crazy story. How do you even know about that?" But you don't really feel it in here. You feel it up here. You know, you feel it in your brain. You got all this information. But you don't feel it in your heart, in your soul, in your character. You don't feel anything.
Because there's a difference between a story and an experience.
Precisely. That's exactly what it is. An experience, to a story, there's just words. But to an experience, there's everything.
There's emotion.
There's sight, smell, taste, hearing. That's what experience is. It's feeling everything. But stories, they're just words. But they come off a lot better when it's with everything in mind. But that's the thing, is you're not going to have a lot of good stories to tell if you never go out there to make them. Right? You got to write stories. That's the thing, is you can rip pages out of other people's book, but what's the biggest thing that we don't like in this world? Plagiarism.
Damn right.
When you're on your deathbed, or when you're, a grandparent, and your kids come up and they say, "Grandma, Grandpa, what did you do growing up? What was your life like?" Do you really want to sit there and be like, "Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback in history"? Is that really what you want to tell? Do you want to say, "I was around for when LeBron was the greatest, player in the NBA"? That I was around when Kanye was doing all this crazy stuff? No, you would say, "Man, I was around when I was doing crazy stuff. These were the things that I did. This is who I am." The crazy things are the things that define you. Because the normal things that everybody does, that would make us all the same if that's what really defined us. But that's what makes humans unique. That's what makes us different, is the fact that we do different. That we, go crazy. That we do things out of the ordinary. That's what's amazing about humans compared to a lot of other species. That's what separates us, is creativity, freedom, right? This is tying all back to the very beginning of the episode, right? With our whole idea of Sasketball. Crazy game. How do we come up with that? We don't know. But what we did is we thought outside the box. We didn't just want to play basketball. We didn't want to just play soccer. We wanted to merge the two. We wanted to make something new. And we didn't let what other people thought or what other people think affect us at all. Instead, we were like, you know what? We're going to do what we want. And we created an experience out of it. But imagine if instead we just sat on the TV and watched LeBron play the whole day.
And you know what? Truth be told, if I look back at all the times I played video games growing up, there are very few experiences that come to mind that I can remember because they were so long ago. I remember playing Skylanders because of the emotion that came with those games. The reason why I even remember these, I'll get to it after I guess I should list them all off. Playing Skylanders with you, when I beat Red in Pokemon Heart Gold, and Wii Tennis. Oh, Smash Bros.
NHL for that one memory?
Okay, 5. That's my top 5. And NHL. Those are my top 5. But the reason why these 5 gaming experiences outlive everything else is because of the energy and experience and emotion behind them as a kid. I will remember those for the rest of my life. But a lot of the countless hours I spent as a teenager playing video games, I don't remember most of that because there's not emotion behind it. So when you sit here going through your life, find what brings that fire out of you. Now, also as a disclaimer, since you brought up Tom Brady, I will say I am not a New England Patriots fan. I just own the hat, and I just thought I'd switch up the hat because I'd be wearing the Toronto Raptors hat all the time. It is my favorite hat.
True.
But figured I'd switch it up for this one time. Also, the Patriots aren't even that good anymore, I don't think, because Tom Brady's not here. But either way, point being
Disclaimer
made here,
aside.
I'm not a Patriots fan.
Yeah.
But, I actually find it very interesting that a lot of people debate about a lot of other people's lives, especially when it comes to, sports.
Yeah.
Where we're always talking about it. But then again, if that's your passion, by all means
Like,
follow
I
it.
completely respect that, but my point is that, like, for example, take Stephen A. Smith, right? The difference between him is that he's created a career out of it, right? And he's actually affecting change, right? He can say, man, I've been on TV with all of these people. He's been there, right? He may have been, participating in GOAT debates or whatever, but this guy was actually experiencing it.
And creating his own
Exactly, his own
version of
take
it,
of it.
yeah.
That's the difference, is that people are actually going out there actively changing it, doing something about it. But I wanted to actually take it back to what you were saying about like video games and stuff. One thing that I would say is in the early stages, I remember playing Overwatch. Like back, I would say that Overwatch is such a top game for me because I think that was like the binding of our friend group was from Overwatch.
And also, that was like the first big game that we had.
Yeah, that was I remember when we got Overwatch that day. I'll never forget that day sitting on the
Couch.
The
We used to play on a couch, bro.
Yeah,
Oh my
life
God.
changes real quick, man. I'd say, any kids out there that watch this, I'm only 18. Like I think I'm still basically a kid. I feel like my life has changed so much. Like I can look back like 8 years. Actually, I can look back 6 years and be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that was 6 years ago." That is crazy. Like it feels so distant and everything is so different. But one thing for me that I was going to say is that at that time I valued playing with my friends, like playing games with my friends. Playing games with my friends was very important to me, right? Because I was still like I don't think I was as solidified with my friend group as I am now. Like these guys, I know they're not going anywhere now. So like even if I don't talk to them for a month, I know if I come back, everything's gonna be chill with us, right?
Yeah.
So back then it was different, but that's what I valued. That's why I have so many memories playing Overwatch. But now I'd say I remember more playing Overwatch when it first came out than we got Overwatch in 2017?
Yeah, I think it was a year after it came out.
That's 7 years ago, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 8 years ago. What?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, man. All right. Well, that is a trip for me. Anyway, I remember those times playing more than I do 3 years ago.
It's really funny because if you scroll all the way to the top of my camera roll, I'll never delete this clip for the sole reason that I thought it was the best clip I'd ever hit in my entire life. And it was on Castillo, and it's a 1v1 elimination game. So if you kill the person, you win the round, right? It's kind of like Siege, but it's just 1v1. And the character that the two of us got was Widow. So I grapple up onto the bridge, and I'm looking for this guy. Where is he? And I see him going up the stairs and into this little hallway area. And there's a little panel of a window that you walk past, right? So I'm like, okay, he's definitely going to walk there. So I station my scope right here, hard scoping. The second he walks through, bang, I get him, right? And at the time, that one-shot kill was mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
That I clipped it, recorded it off the TV with my phone like this. And I sat there and watched that clip over and over again and felt so happy about it. And to this day, when I go back in my camera roll to the beginning, every time I see that, I chuckle. Because I think it's so funny that clip brings me more joy than some of the most insane Widow clips I have in my entire career. Like, I have clips of me grappling, 360ing, and headshotting people halfway across the map. And yet, that clip brings me more joy.
I think it's just that don't be afraid that things change.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace change. It's a good thing because you get to smile, right? You get to smile when things change. If your life stays the same when you reflect on it, I feel like it feels so much more boring. Because if nothing changes, then it's not really exciting, right? That's why I think that our lives, especially as kids, are so much more exciting than as adults. Because our lives change so quickly when we're kids. And as we get older, and that's not like that shouldn't be discouraging because, again, it's up to you. I think that the world that we've created and the stigmas that we've created have led to people believing in the world being super stagnant.
Yeah.
Right? And that, people don't change. But the idea is that things will change, but embrace that. Be happy about it and be excited for the new path that lies ahead.
Yeah, 1000%. And the last thing is, even though I say that there's no set path for life, it's kind of a grand scale. You want to say that at the end of the day, your life can take many different directions. But on a micro scale, saying day-to-day basis, that doesn't mean don't have structure to your day. It means create day plans because that's how you win each day. If you leave the day to how you feel, then it's just going to be your impulses and desires taking over and hijacking your purpose. It completely stops you, right? So number one, make sure you plan out your days and keep doing that, okay? Number two is you should still have goals. At the end of the day, even though you say that there's no set path, there should still be goals and things that you want to achieve. I think that that's kind of natural. At the end of the day, all of us have things we want to achieve. So that's kind of natural. I don't really have to explain that anymore.
I just want to quickly chime in on
Yeah,
that
for
point.
sure.
The idea is, if you think about it as a road analogy, is sometimes you don't, like, you got point A and you got point B, okay? Sometimes you know you want to get to point B. Set path is saying that it has to be straight, that you're going to get a straight shot from A to B. But when you open your mind to the possibilities, you can see that maybe there's a path up here, maybe there's a path up here, maybe there's a path that winds in between, because maybe there's a ton of obstacles in between A and B. So the idea is, have the goal. You want to get to point B, but be okay with the fact that it might not be a straight line. I think that's the main objective there.
Absolutely. And the third point I would say is have guiding principles that serve as a North Star for your life so that regardless of what path you take, it aligns with that. So a good example for me is I want to help people no matter where I am. No matter what I'm doing, I want to be helping people. So if an opportunity presents itself or a path opens up to me, but it doesn't align with who I am, then I walk away from that path. And that's critical for a lot of you out there, especially seeing the underhanded ways of making money in today's society. You got to take the right path for you. You find what aligns with your purpose, and you do that, and you're going to be all right.
Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of episode 42. That is crazy to me. 42. 41 episodes away from episode 1. But thank you guys truly. But before you go, you already know the drill. It is time for Quote
Of
the
Week.
Herram.
Quote of the week. Some of the most beautiful things in life cannot be found without getting lost. Now, this quote has a very insane story behind it. We were in Japan, and we went to a restaurant to eat. Now, one of my friends sat down to eat, and he had been hungry the whole day, and we had gone to several restaurants and not found food. And he sat down finally looking for a good meal. He ordered his food, he ate it, and he was not very happy with it. So he just threw the money on the table and said, guys, I need to go clear my head, and I'm going for a walk. And he leaves. And he just walks and walks and walks. And we look at him on Life 360, and this guy is out in the middle of nowhere on the craziest side quest ever. And he ends up at a cemetery, okay? And on the way to the cemetery, he bought a couple of, sodas, and he had them in a little plastic bag. And he went and he sat down on a bench, and he overlooked this cemetery. And there was another man there, a Japanese man. I don't think that according to his recounting of the story, he didn't speak very, very good English, but he spoke enough to get by. And he had a conversation with this man. And that quote is something the man said to him, that some of the most beautiful things in life cannot be found without getting lost. And
Really? That's the where you found that? That's amazing.
That's where it came from. And he told me that story, I believe the day after, and I was completely mind-boggled. If you're watching, you know who you are. But I find it crazy that he went out in the middle of nowhere and explored a lost
I feel
territory.
like, can we not name drop him here?
Oh yeah, he's already been on the podcast. Yeah.
It was Abby. Yeah,
Shout out to my boy Abby.
Yeah, episode 25.
Yes, very nice.
Episode 25.
Very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said that happened to him, and it's crazy because he just walked out, got lost in Japan, and ended up having that kind of an experience, and that was the quote that came out of it. So remember that being lost is not always a bad thing. It really opens you up to experiencing new things, and it gives you a chance to find something that you love. And who knows, maybe that new thing, whether it's table tennis or Overwatch or business, whatever it is, maybe you'll love it and it'll change your life forever.
Absolutely. Again, thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of episode 42 of the Brighter Horizons podcast understand that there is no set path for life. That while you may want to get to point B, the pathway might not always be linear. It might not always be a straight line. Keep an open mind and understand that there's a lot of different ways that things can go. And find the gems on every path that you can possibly take. And make sure you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.